hair-raising adventures of
ML Elric,
Detective, brought to you by
Red Shovel Network.
ML Elric, Detective Agency.
It's me, Effie.
Oh, I've been worried about you. Sid Weiss was just on the phone, and he says digging up a corpse without a permit is against the law.
It's all right, Effie. I just dug him up to say hello and put him back again.
Oh, ML.
I'll be down in a couple of minutes to dictate my report, sweetheart. If I get lost on the way, you'll find me in City Hospital, the Psycho Ward, third straitjacket from the left.
You asked interrogative
Get your finger out of my face. Get your finger out of my face.
Take the first shot, then, if you want to,
Get your finger out of my face.
It's gone.
What are you doing?
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now, Elric?
Big news day today here in Detroit. Sean Windsor has just joined us from the Free Press, where the Tigers made some trades that will not make them better. Not today, not ever. So we really don't need to talk too much about that, because this is a show that's supposed to lift your spirit, not crush your soul. It's your old pal ML Elric here from Fox 2 News, bringing you news, views, and maybe soon some cold, frosty brews, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Yeah. Marc Fellhauer is here from the Charlotte and Dad podcast, the Drew and Mike show, and several prison dating sites. So, yeah, Marc, it's good
great. You got to expand.
And we have a special guest with us today, Brandon Knight of Distributed Power, who's going to talk a little bit about my solar project, which he has been the architect of and the man who made it happen. And we're going to talk mainly today about the cost of energy, because let me tell you one thing about the cost of energy that probably doesn't qualify as news. It's going up. It's going up, and they want it to go up again. In fact, when I first looked at converting my home to solar, all of the models that we looked at were predicated on the cost of power going up 5% every year. So when you're trying to figure out whether this makes good economic sense, you want to know what the cost of power is going to be down the road. And so it looked like, maybe 5% a year would be a reasonable projection. And then I consulted with some people, and they said, actually, the cost of power is getting cheaper. It's not going up that much. And I said, oh, well, maybe it doesn't make that much sense. And I thought, well, you know what? I just don't want to be tied to the power company anymore. I want to be a little more independent. I want to be greener and all those good things. That sounds like you. Yeah, so I'm ready to go. And then what happens? Edison kicks up the rates. It was just approved by almost 9%. And they came back after getting the 9%, and they want another 9%. So we're going to talk about what it takes to get off the grid and whether or not you can ever really cut those apron strings to Mama Edison. But first, I want to hit on kind of a positive note. If you have some money to spend, it doesn't cost you that much, and it's well worth it. I'm talking, of course, about the Michigan Peddler, which is the top party bike in Metro Detroit. It has a real knack for connecting with its guests and supplying an unbelievable amount of fun. Instead of me telling you, listen to the email that they received this week, a loyal customer wrote and said, as you know, I always ride with the Michigan Peddler, simply the best out there. This was my 4th straight year riding with you guys and my 3rd ride this year. It is addicting. Our most recent ride was awesome with 2 bikes going together. The 2 drivers were both super. Thanks again for another outstanding adventure on Michigan Peddler.
Hey, if you have 2 bikes going, can they race?
They can.
Will the Peddler have them race?
The Michigan Peddler does have a certain bike that has like oil slick on it and blades that come out
like
of the
Spy
hubs
Hunter?
of the wheels, but that's extra.
Cool.
So I think our budget-conscious listeners may not want to take them up on that. But you can ask Mike Gill. He'll set you straight. They'll customize a ride that works for your situation, pub crawl, sightseeing, family ride with kids. You name it, they work with you. Their customer service has even won them the TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence. So pull together your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, and book the highlight of your summer or fall. And we're offering a special promo code just for ML Soul of Detroit listeners. It's the only special offer that the Michigan Peddler is giving out at this time. Just type in or mention promo code ML Soul when booking and receive $25 off their top-rated party bikes. Book today as slots fill up fast. Go to www.michiganpeddler.com. That's Michigan, then PEDALER.com, or call 313-744-3272. So now, a more painful subject, electric rates. Brandon, how long have you been doing solar?
Since about 2012.
And are you seeing more and more people want to convert, or has this sort of been steady all the way along?
Huge growth in Michigan the past 2 years.
Why do people say they want to do this?
Well, we had a great program, DTE's net metering program, and you could essentially eliminate your electricity bill through solar power the last couple of years, and that has changed. Before May 2nd, we could design a system that could produce enough energy over the course of the year to cover your full bill. So it's called net metering.
What happened May 2nd?
So that program was eliminated.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Well, they still have net metering. It's just the rates are lower, right?
It is now the distributed generation tariff. So
That doesn't sound nearly as fun.
So it used to be that if you produced an excess credit of solar power in the summer at noon in July, you're cranking solar. It goes back through the meter. It powers up the house. Whatever's extra goes back through the meter, and you get a credit for it that you can redeem in December or January when you don't have as much solar access. So now that credit is essentially worth about half of what it was. So you can no longer completely eliminate your electric bill with this program.
Well, so that's got to hurt your business.
We don't really know yet. So I'm a creative guy. So I'm going to figure out some ways around it. It is forcing a change for sure.
Well, I admire the fact that, you're a small business. They're this monster public utility, which they have to have their eye on alternative energy. Is that maybe some of the reason they would want to do something like this? Because they want, windmills, or they want a cut of the new energy policy? Is that the speculation?
The speculation can go a million different directions. They have legitimate reasons why they're doing this, and essentially they're saying that the average solar customer was being subsidized by other ratepayers and was not paying their fair share of the distribution and transmission charge that for the whole grid. So that's the talking points that you're going to get from any politician, from any DTE person, and from the Michigan Public Service Commission. So this isn't all DTE. This is political philosophy.
So let me explain a little bit how net metering works. Basically, when the sun shines, you generate as much power as you possibly can. You hope you generate more than you need. At night, when you're not generating power, you buy energy back from Edison, but you hopefully are just buying down the credit you built. So while the sun shines, you make power, sell it to Edison.
I'm walking on sunshine.
When the moon comes up, you buy it back from Edison. And you can't, with these residential solar projects, your system cannot generate more power. It's not supposed to generate more power than you would use. So there's no situation here where Edison ends up owing you a lot of juice.
Of course not.
So
They're making the rules.
right. That's apparently not good enough now, is they don't want to be neutral. They want to buy the cheap energy where they buy it. They don't want to buy it from you. And the other wrinkle here that's really somewhat irksome is that even when you invest in a solar system, they say that we're not paying enough for the transmission lines and all that other stuff. You can't eliminate your energy bill. You still have to pay the standard charges that come with every customer every week anyway. So there's no way, even if you generate more power than you need, that you'll owe Edison nothing for power.
Well, not only that, but correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, you have no choice but to use their lines because you can't just be off the grid. You can't just have it power your home, which when I think of solar, that's like, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Put some of those cool things on my rooftop, and then, bam, I don't have to deal with this bureaucracy of Edison/government.
There's no law saying you can't go off grid. It's
There isn't.
really an economic. The amount of gear you have to purchase in addition to the grid-tied inverter is cost prohibitive.
Really?
Yes.
So effectively, if you want to get off the
yeah.
grid, you better have a lot of money, and it better mean a lot to you.
You're introducing more parts that can break as well. So A standard grid-tied solar array is a very simple system that on an economic play, we could work with a homeowner and say, hey, we can get this system. If you pay cash, we're going to produce enough energy that you're going to earn that back quickly, and then you're going to have essentially pre-purchased 25 or 30 years of electricity with the cost of 8.
Now, being the small business owner that's really trying to get this going, you have to work with DTE to a certain extent. Is that problematic? Well, do you feel, do they want companies like what you have, do you think? Or do you think they do want to control it all?
I'll answer a different question first.
Okay.
So, well, any market change for a small business can be seen as an opportunity. So our competitors are facing the same issue. So there's an opportunity to beat our competitors, and for us to be a small company. There's companies from out of state. Everyone's getting marketed by this Power Home company. I think Power Home is probably 2 to 3 times more expensive than everybody else. I think they're I'm not even going to go into it because it's not fair to them. They're fine. I'm just saying that, hey, well, maybe Power Home's this big ship, and for them to turn their ship,
it's a lot harder.
It's a lot harder. Hey, I'm coming from off-grid. I'm coming from military building microgrids in Haiti.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go with this. Like, I'm technically ready. So it's not going to help, though, to have DTE messing with our market, because we had such an easy, clean value proposition before. It was very easy for people to understand. We produce this much energy over the course of the year. You use this much last year. We apply to DTE. We get your payback in 10 years or under. Everyone's happy.
Well, plus the game changes, right? So when I signed up for this, it was different than what it'll be for somebody who signs up this year. And that makes it difficult for anybody to make sense of this, and it makes it difficult to navigate some of these things. But one of the things I want to draw people's attention to, because I think this is significant, and it's something that different, I guess I'm going to call them consumer-friendly groups. People might call them lefty groups. People might call them anti-power company groups. You can do your research yourself, folks, and figure out which adjectives are appropriate. But some of these are facts, and this comes from Keith Matheny at the Detroit Free Press, so I know you can trust this. The rate increase that was just approved by the Michigan Public Service Commission says that most consumers, most of us residential folks, are going to have an 8.7% increase, which means your monthly bill is going to increase by a little over $6. Commercial customers, on the other hand,
can make that much money in 5 seconds.
They only had a 4% increase, so you could make that in 2 seconds. And industrial customers had only a 2.5% increase. In other words, what's going on is those of us regular folks are paying a lot more every time there's an increase than, say, a business or than a factory. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because they're volume buyers. Yeah. Maybe it's because the Public Service Commission wants to make Michigan a more business-friendly place. But there's studies that have been done that show that over the years, the rates for residential people, little people, poor people, regular people, have increased tremendously, whereas the rates for commercial and industrial have barely budged. Now, I guess they would tell you if you raise our electric rates, we're going to pass it on to consumers, so you're going to pay for it one way or the other. Mm-hmm. But there's a real question, I think, in here as to fairness. And I also think there's some questions about Edison's need for these increases. Now, they've talked a lot about these new increases are going to expand their tree trimming, which should increase reliability for the system. Because, as we know, as Drew knows, particularly power goes down a lot. They're always blaming trees. So who hates a tree?
Of course, they always wait until the power goes out. I don't know, 20 times in a month span before okay, maybe we need to redo that.
Yeah, and how fast do these trees grow back?
Well, that's what happened at my house in Berkeley. We lost power, no joke. I don't know, probably 6 times in a year. And then finally they're like, yeah, we should probably clean those trees out. Same thing happened to the people across the street then. They started losing power all the time. Yeah, no, they're just not very proactive in doing that, which is the least amount they could do, or maybe replacing some of their antiquated equipment on the grid.
So they try and justify.
In case you didn't know, I'm not a big fan of the power company.
Yeah, well, so here's some figures from the Citizens Utility Board of Michigan. We have the 12th highest nationwide average cost of electricity for residential customers. We have the 6th highest nationwide rate of minutes of outage per customer. In other words, we're the 6th highest amount of time of all the states in Michigan
to fix it.
Yeah, when the power goes out in Michigan, only 5 states have longer power outages than we do. We are we rank 4th in a bad way, the 4th worst nationwide in time to restore power. So in other words, we are paying more for electricity than most states.
We're paying more and getting less.
But our outages are worse, and it takes longer to restore our power. And our rates keep coming up. Well, now they're saying it's because they want to trim the trees. Boy, that would have been a good idea a while ago. Meanwhile, our rates go up at 5-10%. I don't think anybody's salary is going up at 5 or 10%. And DTE is making millions, like $100 million a year. They're guaranteed to make a profit. Of course. When they go and argue for these rate increases, their argument is if we don't have a certain rate of return, then you violated Michigan's Constitution on takings. And that's kind of rich for monopoly to say, you got to give it. I mean, where's the accountability here? Isn't capitalism about putting people in competition and saying, if you're the best, you'll make the most. If you're not, maybe you shouldn't survive.
Yeah, but is another company going to come in and start laying down lines? And no, because
you can charge them for access to the grid. I mean, you can have. Michigan did have a competition model in 2000, and they took it down.
I think that DTE is just doing what DTE does, and a lot of this has to do.
I wish what they did was provide power to my house on a regular basis.
Well, this is
or update
these
stuff.
Are publicly regulated monopolies. Both Consumers Energy and DTE are under the same exact policies. And I was actually bringing this up. This was an email that a gentleman named Frank Zaski wrote, and he was looking back at basically since 2005, the big three won this huge argument, and the rate started shifting for them. And essentially,
from them to us.
It does work out to, if you look at the the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which you can go back, it's about a 5% increase since that time per year. So it's been even every year. So what happened at the end of 2016 is the Michigan legislature passed a new integrated resource planning whole framework for the utility companies that creates hundreds of new ways for them to get more money out of people. So it's not DTE, it's who's in power when that energy policy is passed. And this is the end of 2016, and you have across the whole board, you have one party in place. And there might be good people in that party, I don't know. But generally what happens is it gets to be more skewed towards DTE and Consumers Energy. They're winning. They're happy. Everything gets written their way. Solar gets undercut. Everything about the common person, it all was decided in 2016. And all this, what's going on right now, is just implementation of what was put forth several years ago. So they will have these rate cases constantly, all the time.
And they just got a rate increase, and they immediately asked for another rate increase.
Yeah. So that's the new. So we have to win elections, basically, and it's a long-term fight to get things structured the way that is, that for solar, for the future of energy, to take care of people. It's that generally it's benefiting someone. Someone is winning here, and it's not the solar people.
I've never seen a politician hold the feet to their fire, and then finally Dana Nessel, and this is a very small attack on DTE where they say, we're going to give you $25, but you got to apply, and she's basically like, no, this should be automatic. It's like, automatic? How about $25? Why don't you give them the whole month free at that part? You're paying for those 5 days. You're paying, for that whole month, and the service is interrupted.
Yeah, and
There's already
Dana
huge
Nessel has
changes, though.
argued, the Michigan Attorney General has argued that with these new smart meters, which are supposed to be so technologically superior, that they should be able to detect that your power's been out. It should be able to clock in whether or not you're eligible for a rebate, and then that should be automatically applied to your
Obviously.
bill. And people in Michigan, I think, understand after the terrible winters we've had that if you're without power for 120 hours, you're entitled to a $25 rebate. Now, everybody knows that doesn't cover how much power you're out, but it's a token of appreciation, if you will. What people don't know, or most people don't know, is that after 16 hours without power, you're also entitled to a $25 rebate if you're sort of a singular thing. In other words, if there's not this massive outage, if you're the only guy in the block who hasn't had power for 16 hours, you're supposed to get $25 back. Now,
it's frustrating because I just want to put solar panels up everywhere, but it's very political. And I did want to just mention that really quickly before we really got off the whole battery thing, we can do that.
Yeah.
There are more and more products coming out now. Some can take over the whole home in an outage. Some you have to split out into a sub-panel that power a critical load panel. But that's happening right now. And you can also, with the same technology, instead of sending power back to DTE, you can divert it to the battery, release it, and basically keep that energy behind the meter.
So the people
you're
that
not
don't,
even buying from
people
them.
that don't get the batteries are basically cheap, right?
Absolutely.
Some
he's got an integrated EV charger, though. So he's got.
Some would say that they're simply
Frugal?
cost conscious.
Oh,
Now, the
okay.
one thing about
Okay.
the system that Brandon put in my house, and we should tell you, he's not being compensated for this appearance, and I'm not.
We haven't
I'm not
told you the name of the company.
Yeah, I'm not getting any kind of discount. In fact, my inverter went down, so Brandon and I are going to have a little conversation after the show.
Upsell my battery.
It's about to be replaced, but the thing is, with this system, you can do all kinds of different things with it. You can, I've got a level 2 car charger that's a part of it now, and it's all good stuff. But the thing about it is, in Michigan, believe it or not, we're generating enough power to offset our power needs as long as the system was up. And this system can be expanded. So when battery prices come down, we can add a battery. Not at $8,000, Brandon. You get them down to $1,000, come see me.
I'm not making $8,000. I'm just buying equipment. I'm
He's
making
just passed this.
$5.
He's losing money on this deal every day. I don't know how I stay in business. Every day I do something. I'm good. You're
Feels
taking
that way.
money out of my baby's mouth. But
What's the name of the company? Maybe mention it.
So we are Distributed Power.
Website?
DistributedPower.net.
Well, Brandon, thanks for coming in. I look forward to getting my system back up. It's been tough having all this sunlight and none of it going into the system, but I know we'll be back up soon.
I understand.
So,
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
We got the inverter. The replacement is coming.
sound like Annie. The sun will come out tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I promise. It's happening.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Yeah, so if you guys are curious about solar, come by my house and bring a beer, and I'll give you a tour. Hall Financial is a Red Shovel Network sponsor. That's right, David Hall is keeping us on the air, and we want you to keep him in business. We can't emphasize enough how important people like David Hall are to our very survival. I know it sounds dramatic, but he's taking a chance on this new form of media, and if you want to refinance your home, Hall Financial would love to save you money and encourage him to keep us going. You can email David at dhall@hallfg.com or call Hall Financial at 248-308-5000. That's what I did. I worked with Dan Morrison and Shannon, and they gave me a great deal. Maybe you want to refinance your home. Maybe it's your first home. Maybe you're looking to purchase a dream home. Maybe you even want to get some cash out of your home. Give David Hall a chance to get lower rates, better options, and more personal attention. You may have heard the feds are lowering rates. That means deals are better than ever. These guys move fast. The industry average for refi is 44 days. Hall Financial averages 19 days. They'll fight for you even if you have a little blemish on that old credit history. So email dhall@hallfg.com or call 248-308-5000 and thank them for giving the Soul of Detroit a chance to stick around a while. Tell them ML sent you. And when I say tell them ML sent you, I mean tell them ML sent you. NMLS 1467435.
I won't change my mind on anything, regardless of the facts that are set out before me. I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
Freight nut. Freight out. Freight nut. Freight out. Freight nut infinity. Freight out infinity plus one. No.
So I used to believe that it was okay for everybody to express their opinions, whether they were artists or entertainers or sports writers. And then I met Sean Windsor. And then I felt like they shouldn't say anything at all. Sean, how do you feel about that?
Whatever you
Stop.
say.
He's not saying anything
Whatever
at all.
you say.
Oh, I love it.
Whatever you say.
In room 7609 this week, we have... ESPN has once again... I don't want to say they caused some controversy because I think it's the last thing they want to do. They find themselves in the eye of a storm because one of their personalities expressed a political view. Now, this first happened with my friend and former colleague and Sean's former colleague. I guess she was your friend too, right?
Oh, yeah.
She told me she doesn't mind slumming it. So, yeah, she was your friend. And she expressed some concerns about some of President Trump's tweets. I guess apparently he's very active on social media. Anyway, that kind of blew over. Jamel moved on to, I think, bigger and better things. And now Dan the Bastard has gotten himself in trouble. And I only say Dan the Bastard because I speak French. And that's what Le Batard means. Or Le Batard.
Even though he's Hispanic.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
He's got a French
Cuban.
last name.
Cuban, yeah.
It's okay. French, Cuban, he's a bastard.
So should members of ESPN be able to spout their political viewpoints?
Well, I think the question is in which context. The First Amendment guarantees that we can all say whatever it is that's on our mind. That's a right and a freedom that we all enjoy. I think the question is whether or not you should do it while you're on the air. And I would say, frankly, that I guess I don't have a problem with him spouting his political views, but I don't tune into ESPN for voting instructions.
And
I'm not counting on these folks to tell me. In fact, based on what knuckleheads they are, if they want me to do something, they should probably tell me the opposite of what they're really thinking.
And they have research that backs that. Their viewers and listeners do not want it. My only problem is I hate a blanket rule that says no doing this because it's never applied the same. A radio show like Le Batard is, or Will Kane, who skews a little to the right, it's a little different. It's a little more intimate. It's a little more opinion-based. Now, SportsCenter, where Jamel Hill came from, and granted it was a different version of SportsCenter where it's supposed to be more, I guess, entertainment-based, but she was doing it on Twitter. I don't think people want to tune in to hear any opinions at all other than X's and O's. So I just don't like the blanket rule, and it really depends who's putting out the opinion.
I'm going to sound a little bit conservative here, maybe. I don't know. But it's up to ESPN. It's up to the Detroit Free Press. You may not like that. It's up to who do you work for? Oh, Fox 2.
I work for.
I mean, I guess if you call that work.
Actually, we're working for you. I don't know if you've seen our slogan.
I mean, it's really up to the employer. You can say what you want, but it's not going to be without repercussion, right?
I understand.
Having said all that, I like that he said it. I like that he.
Well, why don't we tell people what he said in case
go
they're
ahead.
just catching up?
Well, it was right after Trump told the squad or the four that they should go back to where they came from. And he was basically, in a way, and this is where it gets even a little different because it was kind of snarky because he was quoting a Fox Sports 1 tweet where kind of like, hey, this guy's allowed to espouse his opinion, and he's correct, by the way. So it wasn't really his opinion. It was kind of a stab. He's been taking stabs at his owner ever since his friend John Skipper left. But, he got called to New York twice now to talk about it, and their stance is no politics. And their research backs it up to your point, Sean, that no politics.
Because they're running a business first, and like it or not, I mean, right, it's their decision.
Define politics, because this was the other aspect of what Le Batard said. He goes, we can wade into it if, a player says something. It has to be under the this weak guise of sport.
It does. I mean, that's kind of their policy, right? And you're right, there's been a huge change at that company in the last couple of years because I think there was some backlash from right-leaning viewers.
Major.
But the difference is, in journalism, the rule is report the story, don't be the story. So if a player says something and you report it, you're doing your job. If you say something and then other people start reporting on what you're saying, you're not the reporter anymore. Now you're the subject of the story.
Yeah, but they're paid commentators. Le Batard's a paid commentator with a radio show.
Difference between a reporter and a columnist.
Whose father is an immigrant himself, and so of course he's going to react to that. And let's just
Well, we're all entitled to react, but I don't come into Fox 2 and say, hey, you know what my wife said today? I'm really pissed off. They'd be like, we're not.
But you
we
could,
don't
and then
know about your domestic relations.
But you could, and then you'd suffer
By the
whatever
way, she
consequences.
did say something crazy the other day.
You know, right?
She told me, I listen to the podcast, and my friends do too. You think we don't, but we're going to get you.
Get you?
I said, you've been trying to kill me for 30 years. I'm still here, baby!
I admire that
Still
he said
strong.
something because he knew what was coming, right? And
Yeah, well, he's in an almost untouchable position because, he gets 2.5 million listeners a day. He's very successful. The TV show does well. He's untouchable.
and
Jamel,
his audience is probably, right?
Oh, you know what?
He knows his audience.
He's based in Miami.
You would
he used to be
assume
a
he knows
sports
his
writer
audience,
for the
right?
Miami Herald.
You'd be surprised, I think. I think he gets a lot of pushback from he gets a lot of pushback from inside the studio because they don't want to talk about it.
No, they don't. But again,
You mean his co-hosts?
can we just talk about the elephant
Even
in the room?
Stu Gotts?
Other than
Please do.
Michael, please.
Sorry, what?
This
Apple
has
said
really
what?
just been an issue since Trump's been here, right? Since Trump's been president. Whatever else you think about him, he has forced his way into the psyche in a different way that it leads to guys like reporters, journalists, whatever, sports writers, sports journalists, talking about politics. It's relatively new.
I disagree, though. You don't think this happened on the onset of the Iraq War with Bush?
But not like this. I don't remember any president ever telling another congressperson to go back to where they came from.
No, I
or
just
that a
mean-
city was a shithole or whatever it was he said about Baltimore recently.
I just mean the blurring of the lines between...
Rat infested. The racial undertones of that. So that's why some of these folks, some of these sports personalities who have those similar backgrounds, they're reacting. It's a visceral reaction. And it's just, this has not been going on for that long.
Well, that's the argument, right? Is that this is a time when decent people are supposed to speak. That most of the time we keep this to ourselves, but now what's happening in Washington and across the country is so outrageous that people of good conscience need to be heard. We need to break the rule because the rules have already been broken, and we need to tell people that what we're hearing. And I think that's a very noble and inspiring argument. But I also like to think that sports is something that brings us together, which is also ironic because we come together to talk about sports because I like Michigan State, you like Michigan. We come together, we disagree, but it brings us together. Isn't that kind of a weird thing?
Frankly, if we
but now we're going to throw politics into it?
If we
Doesn't
started
that seem like it's going to mess up the whole thing?
like that, I don't hate you because you like Michigan State. I mean, there's something wrong with you. There might be a difference of opinion.
You hate me because I'm beautiful, like Rula Lenska.
I know people that are incredibly
Alberto
conservative,
VO5.
and I know people that are incredibly liberal. And you know what? My opinion of them after I find that out does not change because there's more to a person than that. So that being said, if I'm watching a show, it's not gonna change. I don't know. If I'm watching a highlight show or a talking head show about, like NFL Live or whatever, it's not going to change my opinion of the show if someone makes a comment about that.
Sports may bring us together, Mike, but they reflect us more than they bring us together. They really, they bring us together physically in a stadium. So I guess you have.
I'm a terrible hitter.
You have
the
a
Tigers
rooting,
are terrible hitters.
You have a common rooting interest, but other than that, it's a reflection of where we are and who we are. And I don't think it's just commentators. You're seeing more and more athletes speak out too, right? We talked about the women's soccer team and Megan Rapinoe and what she's done. It goes way back. Go back to the '68 Olympics.
Obnoxiously
right?
overcompensated.
Jim Brown,
Megan
right?
Rapinoe.
There's
Ali.
Exactly, Muhammad Ali, Carlos, or Tommy Smith,
Carlos Leon. No, not Carlos. Carlos. Oh,
in Mexico City in the '68 Olympics and holding the fist up,
Tommy
right?
Carlo.
Exactly, Tommy Carlos and. Yeah, God,
it's bad.
we're mangling this. This is terrible. Jordan got heat in the late 80s, especially through the 90s, because he wouldn't take a political stand. So he
because
got
Republicans buy shoes, too.
Exactly. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jim Brown and Bill Russell and some of those socially conscious-minded athletes gave him
when
crap.
Hideki Nomo said he didn't think that Barack Obama was born in America?
He was
but he said it in Japanese, so it didn't really get
But this has been with us forever. This has been what's a little bit new again is reacting to
it's in the
president
Takahashi
in a different
Shinbun.
way.
They
Well, I think
the whole visiting the White House thing. That maybe
existed though,
but not like this. It wasn't. And now blame social media a little bit if you want in the back and forth on
Clinton
Twitter.
was president, it was mainly women's teams that didn't want to visit the White House because they were afraid of getting chased.
And
around.
there were a few people here and there that would
Being
quietly
used as an ashtray.
But yeah, it's not. It's just changed. It's so much on a stage.
You won a championship. That calls for a cigar. No thanks. I'm good. I got asthma. Got to pass on that one.
Wait, what's the ruling, though? So you don't think people on the ESPN blanket rule, no politics?
No, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Sean says the boss decides.
They do. That's
You're the
just
boss
how
of ESPN. What's your decision?
I would give him a little bit more latitude unless...
Everybody.
No.
Bill Walton in the middle of an NBA game.
No, he does that anyway, right? No, I would, and he's talking about acid trips, which is great, which I want to hear more about.
It's entertaining as hell, yeah.
I mean, that helps explain Mike, too, when he thinks he lives in Detroit.
So when I was dropping acid
too
with
much
Timothy
orange
Leary
sunshine.
And,
But I think that's the whole time, place, and manner of it is if you're watching a basketball game, you don't want to be hit over the head with.
No, you don't.
Trump sucks or Trump's the best. You don't want to hit.
But you give some people more leeway than others within a company. You do that. That's how every company
They don't.
works.
I think the market decides. I'm fine with people sharing their opinion. I don't listen to Sports Center to hear. I don't have cable, so I don't listen to Sports Center at all. But I would not listen to Dan Le Batard to get political views. But if that's what he wants to do, let him do it. And if the $2.5 million turns to $2 million, turns to $1.5 million, turns to $1 million, he made his choice. He's going to have to live with it.
But that hurts ESPN too. So why wouldn't they have an interest in setting some parameters there? And why do you listen to? You're not going to listen to anything anyway because you obviously think you know everything. So I don't. I mean, that's a poor anecdote.
What do you mean think?
Okay, well there you go.
That's why he doesn't have cable.
Exactly. That's why he's got solar now. I don't know what you need the power for.
You just
you just walk inside and start talking.
He just looks in the mirror and talks to it.
Exactly.
It's like watching TV for him. He's
and
always on that channel.
That's why I like
got a
my
reflection
phone,
and
see my reflection.
Yeah, there you go.
You call your wife into the bathroom. I'm on TV again. There I am.
There you go.
Oh, man. I don't call my wife into the bathroom. If I want to make a splash in my marriage,
she's gonna get you.
It took you a long time
is this
to
the
get
point where
to,
you come out.
It took you a long time to get to your little, bathroom humor. Literally with a bathroom reference.
I didn't bring us into the bathroom.
No, but I'm impressed. This is
Somebody
the first
forced
time in
me into
3
the
months.
bathroom.
It's the first time in 3 months he's waited this long. So I'm impressed. You're getting better. You're growing up, Mikey. I love it.
It's not a coincidence. It turns out they have walking tacos at Costco for $15. I've had 8 corn tacos in the last 12 hours.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
This should be probably geek of the century because I don't know if you like Dilbert or not. I think at one time it was somewhat
very
amusing.
Popular.
Yeah, it was kind of a slice of life on office politics
humor.
And life. Yeah,
Office humor was really big, like in the early mid-'90s. Then you had Office Space, and,
right?
Yeah.
And cubicles and Dogbert and all that other. A strip is in trouble when they introduce new characters. But I think when The Office came on, shows and strips like this became very quaint. Well, Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, has been trying to stay relevant for a long time, and God bless him, because who wants to see their industry disappear, said the guy who spent most of his career in newspapers and is in television now as people turn off. But I think there's a price to be paid when you try too hard, and this week, Scott Adams, he's trying to promote an app that he has that connects people with sources. In other words, if you don't trust the media and you want to get directly to somebody who's an eyewitness or who's an expert on it, you can go through his startup, which is called WhenHub, and you can
how
find.
Is that different from Twitter?
Well, the difference is this one will connect you with somebody, and they can get paid to be your source. So after the shooting in Gilroy, California, at the Gilroy Garlic Festival, which killed 3 and wounded 12.
2 of them kids.
Yeah, and boy, we could.
I know.
We're going to skip right past the heavy stuff. Adams tweeted out, if you were a witness to the hashtag Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting, please sign on to Interface by WhenHub, which is a free app, and you can set your price to take calls. Use keyword Gilroy. So Scott Adams realized this was a mistake, I think, when people like Khalil Bey of San Francisco tweeted, Scott Adams and the magic of turning active shooters into active users. And a pollster, Frank Luntz, tweeted, You're really using an in-progress mass shooting to promote your app? Yeah. When that happened, he got the message that this was not only inappropriate
And did you see his
tasteless.
Did you see his first response to the pushback?
No.
He claimed it was just simply because he supports President Trump, and that's why he's getting all this pushback. To which he got more pushback because they're like, no, that's not really why. This is a tragedy, and I know that's what you think this app is supposed to be for, and that's fine, but you might want to think about your timing a little bit.
And is that
it's not that people are grieving. It's that at that time, people were still in shock and trying to figure out what the hell happened.
And Trump tweeted, look, dude, I'm in enough shit for my own stuff, okay? You don't need to drag me into this one. But,
yeah.
Thanks. But no, so this is another person who doesn't trust the media, who wants to circumvent the media, and this is the kind of guy who doesn't trust the mainstream media, which, by the way, you can trust. So, for your enthusiasm, for your lack of taste, and even for your lame old strip, Scott Adams, you are our Geek of the Week.
See you guys.
There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
Back in my college days, I had two massive posters on my wall. One was a recreation of the Smiths' The Queen is Dead cover.
Okay.
It's like one of those crazy posters you'd get at the student union. It's like 4 feet wide and 6 feet tall. And the other one was for
Bob Marley?
No.
I thought every college room had to have Bob Marley poster.
No, but every college room had to have one of those Mexican hoodies that had a big weed leaf on the front of it and said something like Jamin on the back and some sort of presumably lead-based paint from a child-run factory in China. But no, the other poster was Bryan Ferry, who was at one time the lead singer of Roxy Music, which was one of these seminal new wave bands. Some people credit them
birthing it
or blame them for being the protogenitors of art rock. Brian Eno was in there with his synthesizers, a little too pretentious for my taste. But Bryan Ferry is coming to the Fox Theater this Saturday, August 3rd. I'm going to be there. Never seen him before. I'm looking forward to it. His work as a solo artist, you probably know Kiss and Tell and some other great songs, but here's one of his underappreciated hits. It's a little ditty that he likes to call Limbo.
You never get near enough.
So if you see me at the Fox Theater on Saturday, give me a shout. And if you missed the show, if you're listening to the podcast after Bryan Ferry has left the stage, a little food for thought about Bryan Ferry. And if you're wondering why that song sounded so cool, Johnny Marr on guitar. In fact, if you...
Oh, wow.
He played on a lot of tunes with Bryan Ferry in his post-Smiths career. And if you take a look at the Right Stuff video, at 112, there's a couple of frames of Johnny Marr on guitar, and you can hear, when you listen to that tune, there's a very subtle background guitar riff that has that sort of echo from How Soon Is Now.
There seems to be a lot of crossover with new wave bands.
I think if you're kind of a guitar hero, you can float around a little bit, you know.
Not just him. There's always... I feel like every week when we have a song, it's like, oh, that person was on in this... Well, there's just a lot of crossover.
Johnny Marr played with the. Johnny Marr played with Electronic. Robert Smith played with Susie and the Banshees. And, of course, he's, he is The Cure. So I think, that English music scene is kind of small and intimate. And maybe to a fault. Because Bryan Ferry used to feature, because, he's sort of the debonair, whatever.
Oh, my God. He's so deep.
He's very pretty. But he used to have supermodels on the covers of the Roxy music and albums. And he picked up Jerry Hall at the airport when she came in to be on some of their album art.
Yeah.
They fell in love. They were living together.
Oh, boy. And
this
the bigger
incestuous
rock star.
Community, this small English music community. Yeah, they went to a dinner party at Mick Jagger's place, and Mick Jagger was smitten.
Yeah, it's hard to beat Mick Jagger.
Yeah, and as smooth as Bryan Ferry is, as refined, as cultured, his carefully dangling strands of black hair over his forehead, Mick took her away.
You can't beat the pull of Mick Jagger. Even if you're David Bowie. I mean, David Bowie got pulled.
Whoa, hey,
Well, they did. Didn't they get it on or something?
I thought that was Rod Stewart, but that's just a rumor, a myth, if you will. So at some point, Jerry Hall writes a tell-all book, but it wasn't really a tell-all book. But when that book came out, Bryan Ferry, who was so annoyed that she had left him like 10, 15 years earlier, he was so pissed off when she left him for Mick Jagger that he kept her clothes.
Oh, really?
Like you. Bitch, you can go, but your clothes shall stay here.
That sounds like a Bryan Ferry way to get back at somebody.
It's a very sort of, snooty way.
But wait, he would strike me as the guy who would be unaffected by losing a lover.
Above it, but that's what makes him so human.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, he wrote a great song called Kiss and Tell that's supposed to be about...
Oh, that's okay. I didn't know that.
A response to Jerry Hall's book in which she tells about their relationship and Mick Jagger and all that stuff. So there's a little bit about Bryan Ferry and Roxy music. So hopefully you're enjoying what you're hearing here in Room 7609. We get a lot of response to this feature. Not as much negative response as we used to. I think that's good, although we welcome all opposing views. I was at the Smiths United show in Hamtramck last Saturday and ran into some folks who said they really enjoy Room 7609, and they're actually learning a lot about some bands that they had either overlooked, or maybe there's some of our younger listeners and they're thinking, yeah, okay, let me check that stuff out. So
any reason to listen is good for me,
Yeah.
even if it's your wife who wants to get you. I mean, if you want to get us, that's a more than acceptable reason to listen.
She tells me there's a lot of reasons that I should be cold and stiff in the ground, and
that's what keeps relationships healthy.
Yeah,
hatred,
killing people. Yeah, wasn't there a whole movie? It's several movies about it. War of the Roses and a couple others like that. But anyways, we appreciate hearing from you. We want you to write to us at mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. You can give us a call at Butterfield 89070. That's 313-288-9070. Leave us a message. We would love to play that on the show. Please rate us, review the podcast, subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting platform so that the show pops up when we post it, typically midday on Thursday. Tell your friends about us. Go to our website, mlsoulofdetroit.com. Check out some back episodes to get caught up, and of course you can represent. You can wear our merchandise. We now have T-shirts and stickers available at Mark. Where can they get those?
DrewandMikeShow.com.
Drew and Mike store or show?
You're right, store. Thank you for the correction.
This
Correction. I believe there's a link on mlsolodetroit.com.
Excellent. There's also a link for you to donate. If you would care to donate, we appreciate that. We want you to support our sponsors because they really do keep us coming back week after week. I mean, we enjoy doing this, don't get me wrong, but, there's other...
We enjoy it a lot more.
There's other free things we can do with our free time, but when it's paid, it moves up. It moves up the ranking. But you can become a sponsor. So that's what Kelly did. She sent us some cash, which we appreciate, and she also a kind note. ML and Mark, love the podcast. Notice she left Sean out. Is that an omission? Or a confession?
Yeah.
My daughter is an MSU. My daughter's an MSU journalism major and works at the State News. Love the episode where Mike talked about his time on the staff there. Yes, at one time I was known as Mike. Keep up the good work, including the new wave music segment. Thanks, Kelly. Kelly not only thanked us with her words, but with her cash.
And you also, if you are interested in ML's youthful reporting, go to his Twitter at Elric.
Oh boy!
And see the lovely picture he posted of the alternative paper that he put out up there.
Yes,
that picture took me. It surprised me. I'm like, you look like you're 14 in the picture.
Did you have any uncomfortable stirrings?
None whatsoever.
Okay, good. That's good. I mean, there's a table.
Teresa was in the picture too.
Hey, watch it there, big fella. Watch it.
I couldn't believe that was you.
You don't mow another guy's lawn. Speaking of which, I gotta trim my hedges, but and that's not a euphemism. I'm a waxer. That's me. I gotta be clean about it. But no, that was the URI, which was a great paper with a terrible name. It was short for the University Reporter Intelligencer. How did you come up with such a long name? Why, I'm glad you asked. We had 3 editors, and each one wanted a different part in the masthead, in the flag. And so I just said, you know what? I got so much shit to do. I'm not going to mediate this. Everybody wins. That's one of those things you should probably fight it at the beginning so you don't have to fight it for the rest of your life. But yes.
URI sounds like a disease.
Well, it kind of sounds like a Cure song. Why can't I be you? It's URI, UR dash I dot dot.
Or it sounds like a UTI.
Or it doesn't at all. Yeah. That everybody loves a nice UTI. That's when you're meeting the wrong people at the bar. But if you go to my Twitter feed at Elric, of course you'll see news about this show. But you can see our first front page and a picture of me and my at that time girlfriend when we were both looking pretty good. I, of course, still look fantastic.
She, honestly, though, I'm not just saying this. She doesn't look like she's aged much at all, but I can't get over it. You look like you were 14.
I know.
You look like the tall 14-year-old, though, because you were always very tall then.
We used to go out on dates, and she'd get arrested for picking on the hot young dudes. But that still happens,
I didn't
actually.
say hot. I just said young.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, she was with other dudes who were hot.
Oh,
then
okay. Hot and young dudes?
When they were busy, she'd come hang out at my house. But another writer sends in, please rescue me from myself here. Jason writes in and says, I would love to hear the thoughts and opinions on how Nessel is operating their water bottling operation in Michigan. Apparently, they only pay $200 a year to take millions of gallons of water from Michigan, millions of gallons of water for a weekly paycheck from a minimum wage earner's paycheck. It just seems horribly wrong. I think you could do a whole show on it, honestly. I believe some listeners may not have heard of this yet, and it would be a great service to them. Oh, by the way, thank you for your service, ML, Sean, and Mark. So Sean makes the cut there. Actually, Dave Spencer at Fox 2 did a story on this some time ago, and this is a very controversial thing where I believe this is still being debated at the state level. But if I ever get assigned to that story, I would be happy to talk about it. For the most part, if we're going to talk about issues, it'll be ones that I've spent some time digging into. But Jason, if you check the Fox 2 website, you may see that, and maybe we can put a link up on our story notes. But we appreciate all of your calls, all of your letters. Please tell your friends about us, and listen to our other Red Shovel Network shows. There's No Filter Sports with Eli, Denny, and Bob. There's No BS News Hour with Charlie LaDuff. And, of course, our flagship, the Drew and Mike podcast. You've been listening to ML Soul of Detroit on the Red Shovel Network. Cyrus, take us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
reminds me, Effie, pour me a drink.
That all?
Sign it, put a special delivery on it, and send it care of the matron to Hatchapee Prison. Go on, have one yourself.
Oh, thank you. Here's how. Oh.
You'll get used to it.
Good night.
Good night, sweetheart.
Red Shovel Network
presents The Adventures of
Samuel Elric, Sean Windsor,
famous private detective, produced and directed by
Marc Bellhauer.